Hi, and welcome to the Awakening series. My name is Kimberly Archuleta. Today we are in Boulder, Colorado at the Boulder Psychic Institute. Today we have an honored guest, Miwa Mack, who is the owner and founder of the Boulder Institute. We're so excited to have her on the show. So if you wouldn't mind, the first question, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, well, my journey started at a fairly early age where I grew up seeing ghosts or dead people. And what turned out to be great for me is that my family in Japan fostered that ability. So my grandmother and my aunt, instead of getting scared because I was talking to nothing, or to me they were my friends, instead of getting scared, they said, "Oh, what are they telling you? You know, tell us more about them. Do they have any messages for us?" And because of that Shinto and Buddhist tradition, they were a lot more curious than maybe if I was raised primarily in the U.S. And so that really fostered my ability to see ghosts, to see entities. And it actually proved to be very useful with my family. Most importantly, when my grandfather died, I was able to kind of locate a bunch of things that needed to be located after he passed. And I was about 5 or 6 years old. And the family would come and hold court with me and ask me all these questions. And as a little one, I just loved the attention. And so that definitely fostered my psychic abilities. And then right at around 8 or 9, my parents started having difficulties, and they went through a pretty long divorce process, and watching the energy of what they were going through and what they were doing to each other, I turned down my abilities. And so by the time I was about 10, I stopped seeing ghosts anymore, and then just would see clouds around people. And so that kind of had me be more of a curious kid, because I could see people when they get angry or when they were telling the truth or not telling the truth. Their auras would do different things, and I kind of used that for my own information, but didn't really talk to too many people about it. And it wasn't until I was 19, when I was in college, and I got a Reiki attunement.
Cool.
And I was kind of curious about spiritual stuff. As a matter of fact, when I was 15, I started joining every religion you could possibly imagine, just to kind of figure out what was my spiritual path. And I tried Catholicism, I went to the Lutheran church, I dated a Mormon boy so I could go to the Mormon church.
Yeah, good for you for trying it. You're curious.
Yeah, and then my mom noticed what I was up to. She sent me to a Buddhist temple for a summer, and I learned Zen meditation.
Wow.
And then the next summer, a Shinto shrine. And so I was naturally kind of curious. And so at 19, when I was in college and got the Reiki attunement, something clicked, and all of a sudden my abilities popped back open again. And I, to be honest, thought that I had lost a few screws, or some, bolts fell out, maybe I did too many drugs or something like that. And so I didn't leave my house for about a month.
Wow.
I was in engineering school. I had my friends bring me my homework, and I kind of did labs from afar back then, and really was hoping just kind of whatever this was would go away. And it didn't. And so when it didn't, I opened up the phone book, and it was the yellow pages, right? And I was looking for psychiatric help. And the page opened up to psychics, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And this woman's name popped out of the page. It kind of just grew bold letters or something. It kind of just grew out of the page, and I was like, maybe I'm supposed to call her. So I just picked up the phone and called her and explained what was going on. And she said, oh, it sounds like your psychic abilities kicked back on. Come on in. I do lots of readings and healings. I can kind of work with you, and you probably want to figure out how to turn that off or down when you're in public. I was like, yeah, I feel pretty crazy. And so she took me under her wing, and she taught me how to manage my skills and manage my abilities. And one of the things I discovered is these visualization techniques that she taught me for energy management actually apply for pretty much everyone in owning any ability. So I've been running this school for many years, and for example, there's a lot of hype around empaths and how difficult it is to be an empath, and we have many empaths who come into this school and use the techniques that we have to offer here, and they actually learn how to own their empathy, to use it as their superpower, as their gift, and they're able to kind of turn it up when maybe they're in a therapy session or doing some client work, and then they can turn it back down. And same thing with your intellect. These tools help you to own all of your gifts. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was a wonderful path working with her. And then I actually did graduate engineering school.
Wow.
Because, I felt like I had already started. So
yeah.
I did work as an engineer for a little bit, and then was doing readings and healings in the evenings and on the weekends. And then about a year and a half into that engineering job, I decided I just could not do the rest of my life in cubicle land.
It's not you.
And I just was suffocating. And one day really it was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
Did you just wake up like out of bed and just like?
No, it had definitely been building.
Yeah.
And so I quit my job and,
wow.
and picked up a job at this preschool up the road, where it was a Montessori preschool, and I worked with toddlers, and I wanted to work with that age, 18 months to 3 years old, because as I saw it back then, they're the most psychic people on the planet.
They're so close to being with God.
Yeah, they're just right there. And, feeling a little bit lonely, I felt like I needed some pals, and I taught them, some of the tools that I teach here, and they taught me way more than I taught them about healing and walking in grace and, being curious. And I learned a lot, and I actually did have a dream to start a psychic school for kids, for little kids, a preschool, and it was going to be kind of like almost a daycare Montessori kind of.
I love this idea still. It's so
still
cool.
There. It's still a vision. And so I did have a vision of wanting to start a preschool, and so I was kind of experimenting with these kids, and just wondering, like, if I gave them all the permission in the world to use any ability they had, what would they do? What would they start to manifest? And they really did start to manifest some amazing miracles.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
I had some kids who could just totally read minds, a lot of telepathy going on. We had a few kids who could kind of take building, popsicle sticks, and kind of get them to stand up without glue and make little figurines and stuff like that. We had one girl who could kind of levitate things, and she would always use it in a very realistic. She wouldn't just kind of float things, like they showed in the Matrix. But it was more if a kid was about to drop something, she would kind of get it to not fall and break, and kind of levitate it back onto the table,
That's amazing.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was when she stuck this little kid dropped her glass, and in Montessori schools, or back in the day, you used to use real glass.
Oh wow, no more,
And the glass was just about to fall, and she reached out her hand, and she kind of magnetized the cup to her hand, and it went whoop, and she popped it back on the table, So
how old was she? 3, 2, 3?
She was about 2 and a half.
And you just gave them ability, their permission to
gave them all that permission, and the first time one of the kids did something like that, I definitely kind of freaked out and was trying to keep that within and be like, that's normal.
Yikes! Wow.
And so so needless to say, some of the parents started to notice what was happening to their kids. And I was pretty young. I was in my early 20s, and I didn't know any better. And I didn't realize that I should probably be communicating with the parents and letting them know, hey, here's what this is about, or here's what's going on. And pretty soon, the administration came down on me, and I left that school.
Oh, shucks. But what an experience. You got to truly experiment with these amazing children and see gifts grow from birth almost, and everybody had a different gift.
Yeah, they all had different strengths. It was and some of them didn't really blossom in that way. Some of them weren't really into kind of what I was up to, and that was fine too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So from there, where did you go?
From there, I realized, because I was actually getting my Montessori training. And
oh, wow.
director training to run a little school. And at that point, I realized, ooh, you know, if I don't bring the parents along and get the parents comfortable with this and have them understand what's going on with their kids and maybe have a little bit of an inkling of opening up themselves psychically or clairvoyantly, I don't think that this experiment is going to work.
Right.
I really realized that I was kind of young at that point and was very cavalier and recognized I had to kind of rein back my plan and open up a school for adults first.
Very cool.
From there, once we have enough adults trained, at some point, hopefully we'll have some people with children, and those kids will be interested in coming to preschool. Yeah.
Me, my son. Let's start it. I'm totally in.
Yeah.
So as far as this institution and being in Boulder, Colorado, how did you decide on this location?
So this location actually just appeared. So from 2003 until 2009, I was renting out various spaces throughout Boulder to run classes. And then in 2008, I did buy a house and was running classes out of my house.
Very cool.
Also, but we had some bigger healing clinics or healing events, or sometimes bigger classes that I still needed to rent out space for. And my goal was actually to finish off my basement and just make that the school.
Yeah.
And then this building opened up, and I convinced the person who rents, or who was renting most of the building, to rent me out the back two offices.
Okay.
And so I started off with the back two offices in 2009. Knowing that having a sign out front on the Pearl Street Mall.
I mean, that's huge. There's so many people.
Just walk by.
Yeah.
But you would also be amazed at how many people come up the stairs and say, I have been in Boulder for 20 years and I have never seen your sign.
I actually went to school here for a short time in Boulder, and I do remember seeing your sign, but I never had enough guts to come upstairs is all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, do I have to make an appointment? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
But I did see your sign, so yeah.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I rented out the back two rooms, and then just over the years, I've been taking over the rest of the space. And you pretty much have, you know, most of the back of the building. It's
beautiful, and the building itself is beautiful.
Yeah, I like it because it's old.
Yes.
I remember when I first was deciding whether I wanted to be here, there was a lot of traffic noise in the back alley, and in case you haven't noticed, it smells like pizza in here.
I knew I was hungry, but maybe that's why.
You stopped smelling it after 10 years. But they have like a dough maker in the back.
Oh, nice.
It makes a lot of noise, and it was kind of noisy here in the summertime. CU marching band, or in the spring, and no, the fall.
I've come for the marching band event myself. Yeah, it's pretty loud.
Super loud here, and I really had to take some time to think about that, and I was like, okay, well, it's such a great location. I love the old building feel. It kind of feels like Hogwarts. Yeah. And I just loved it, but the noise and trying to teach people how to meditate and quiet and go within, I really thought we'd need a perfectly quiet location. And I just decided, you know what, I am really about teaching people how to access their spiritual abilities and their, you know, awareness in public or in crowded places. And that's at that point, that's when I decided that, you know, I'm teaching my students to not only be psychic and not only to be healers, but to be able to walk in the world and not isolate like a lot of people who are sometimes on a spiritual journey will do.
Right.
And so it's not about isolation. This work is really about, can you be amongst the people and with the people, and working your own inner space so that whatever interaction you have, you get to choose how you experience it from within, depending on how you set your energy within. And so the noise, I figured, well, the students will have to learn to meditate through the noise and learn how to quiet and block that out.
I think that's healthy. I think that's super important because the moment you step out of here, it's busy, Pearl Street, everything's busy, there's so much traffic. Going to Denver, it's a long drive. Yeah. I love that your thought process behind that is blocking it out, because we do have to do that. Like if you have children or whatever you're doing in life, there's always something that's, loud.
Yeah, and I think it's even getting louder now too, with the radio waves and the cell phone waves. And I mean, I think I was reading recently that there's like maybe 3 spots on the planet that you can go.
Interesting.
Where there's no noise.
Where is that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think there's some spots in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
I think it's really only Brazil, maybe Africa. Somewhere.
Wow, I bet. Isn't that interesting how we've evolved to the radio waves and just living with them? We don't know exactly what they're really going to do to us eventually, or how, but I mean, they're there. You're right. It's noise.
Yeah, and it's all noise, and so you can't really, like the Tibetan Buddhists, you can't go up onto the top of the mountain anymore.
Really?
And you can't go do that anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's so noisy.
Interesting.
So how do you create the top of Tibet here?
Yeah. You have to block it out. You have to learn how to block it out. So as far as your institution, how many students have you had?
I actually looked that up because I had never actually had count. And we actually had some software built in 2012. And so as of that point, from when we started tracking, we have about 1,300
wow.
people who have gone through here. But I started the school 9 years before that. So there might be
so many. That's amazing. And
15.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot. So like 13, 14, 1,500 students in that time span, and you get to meet all these amazing people. Wow, what a blessing.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's the best part.
Yeah, right? Is that the best part? Is just like getting to know all these amazing people who are open. And awakened, or at least trying to awaken.
And watching them totally make a turnaround in just a year or two. They just become these totally different people where they're shining bright, or maybe there's somebody who came in and didn't think they had a voice, and the next thing they're out singing and playing music. And I've had a student who kind of spent the first 9 months, she just cried every day. Aww. She would come to class and I just put the box of tissues right next to her. She would go through a whole box every week, every class, 9 months, and then one day she said, "I think I'm done." I said, I think
Yay.
And she left, and she actually started painting, and she started painting these huge masterpieces, and she actually started making a living doing that, and that's her thing.
She really got to be herself, within herself. Oh my God, talk about an awakening.
Yeah.
That's so cool, creatively. I mean, we all have so much creative ability, but it's blocked. Like you said, this woman's crying, or to allow yourself to be open to it and come here and have the guts to come and say, this is where I am, this is who I am, I don't know where to go. So how long is the program? I mean, it looks like there's multiple programs.
Yes, so a student who goes all the way through the program could be here about 8 or 9 years at this point if they took every single class.
Wow, that many, okay.
Yeah, and so we do have just one program. I have really designed the school to where we just do one thing well, and so it is basically our clairvoyant training program. So our students start at Self-Healing 101, and then Healing and Manifesting 102, and then they take Energy Awareness 103, and from there they can hop into our clairvoyant and healing training program, which is called the Enlightenment program. Wow. So we kind of, everything has a prerequisite, and then from there they can take other classes if they so choose.
That's wonderful. And are some of your students now your teachers?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I bet they think it's just so fun to learn and then to teach. You learn so much as you're teaching so many different people.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
At the beginning when I first started hiring people, I didn't want to hire students, and that just did not go. I had this one poor assistant who was so terrified to be around a psychic that, I would just kind of, across the hall be like, "Hey, so-and-so," and she would just jump and like...
Oh my goodness, that's so cute.
Okay, I need a different assistant. So I went through a few rounds and then finally went, okay, I guess I'm hiring students because they know the drill here, they know what we're up to, they can talk about their experience, and and a lot of students, or not a lot of students, but some students who go through actually do want to become a professional psychic, and they know that teaching is a great way to really refine that craft.
That's so cool. So what do most students do once they graduate or once they move on? Is it the creative side, or, I mean, I'm sure there's so many different paths they take, but what do you see most, would you say?
So unique.
Is it? Yeah. I
have observed over the many years that most of our students, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Okay.
They just do the same thing.
Sure.
Most of them are in the same jobs, and they're just doing it better with more awareness, more lightness, more amusement, more fun. And I would say that that is about 80% of my population.
Okay, very cool.
And then from there, we have about 10%, maybe even 15% that will just make a complete turnaround. They'll just quit their whole job, or they'll move to a different part of the world, and they'll just completely do something very different, like that woman who started.
Yeah, wow.
And then we have about 5% of our population that actually come here who want to become professional psychics, who want to give readings and healings and take this on as a career.
Very cool.
And that's simply because, although the name of the school is Boulder Psychic Institute, from day one we're really marketing Self-Healing 101. How do you heal yourself? How do you take these tools and apply them to yourself, within yourself? Because if you can't do that first and foremost,
right, how
you
can
can't
you do it
help
to
other people, right?
Absolutely. I love that. I'm so glad you have that's the first class. You need to really get a hold of what's inside of you and how to heal yourself, because no matter which way we look at it, we've all had some type of traumatic experience some way or another, and it might be blocking your energy, who knows? But to get down to that root source is healing, self-healing.
Yeah, very healing.
Learning.
And as you say, people have traumatic situations that happen in their life, and that's very true. And quite often I see that what keeps a person stuck or not living their full potential is a lot of those past moments, and there's oftentimes not one, there's
many,
a plethora.
And possibly compounded, because once how do you break that?
It snowballs.
Yeah.
Yes, and so a lot of the work is, I call it peeling the onion, where we're just kind of chipping away and pulling off layers and layers until you kind of get to the heart or get to the center.
I love that. I love that. So as far as your specialty, the clairvoyance for the school, can you tell us a little bit more about that as a teacher and going in and meeting with your students? Like, say for example, they've moved up, they're past 101, they're past midway. What next before graduation? I mean, 8 to 9 years is a long time. So, I mean, are they now looking at their dreams? Are they looking at like other people's auras, or are they looking at their own specific gifts that they have like brought to light? I don't know. I'm just so interesting to me.
Yeah. So when a student completes the Enlightenment program, which is our main or beginner, main, intermediate program. I call it the Clairvoyant Healing Training Program. But once they're done with that, they have a pretty good ability to be able to sit down, close their eyes, and take a look at a person's aura or somebody's past lives and tell them what they see.
Okay.
So we really are about developing clairvoyance and healing abilities, and that's because I see that as one of your 4 spiritual natures. So as a human being, as a person with a body and also a spirit, so the combination of both, we're inherently born with 4 spiritual natures. And the first is that of the healer, so we're all able to heal ourselves, heal other people if we so choose, but most importantly, when I look at a healing, the very basic of what a healing is your ability to take a step to create change. I'm stuck. Give myself a healing. How do I change that? How do I create that change? So everybody is born with that ability.
I love that.
Everybody's also born with the ability of clairvoyance, the ability to see energy. And that is the main premise from which I built this school, is that everyone can see energy. I mean, you have a little one at home, right? Those bright eyes.
Yes.
You see those bright eyes, and they just like so shiny, right? And it almost looks like there's heaven in those eyes, right?
Yes.
Well, what are they doing? They're looking at the spirit in the people around them. This is why oftentimes those little infants, they'll look above, right? They kind of do that. Right? And what they're doing is they're tracking the soul. They're tracking the spirit because, if you will, most people are not in their bodies.
Right.
Most people, as I walk around as a psychic, watching people, they're spiritually kind of floating up, and they're off to the side, or maybe they're stuck in the past from some trauma, or maybe they're still having a conversation that they had yesterday. And so quite often, spiritually, people are above themselves, and that's why the little infants, and cats do the same thing too, right? They're tracking, And what oftentimes happens with these little kids is the adult comes in, sees them in the crib. No, I'm right here. Look at me here. I'm here.
Good point. I do that. Oh no.
And we condition our kids to not look for spirit anymore, but to look at the body. So then that little one is saying, "Oh, hi, mom with brown hair, or black hair, brown eyes. Oh, that's your face. That's you." And so now it becomes, you're the body. You're not the spirit anymore. And so that oftentimes gets conditioned out of the little ones. And what I observed when I was working at the toddler preschool is right at around 2 or 3, that tends to be when the abilities start to really shut down, and that's because of the conditioning that kids receive from their parents.
We just don't know any better.
We don't know any better. Yeah.
We're like, why aren't they looking at us? Kind of, because you kind of do get a little scared if they're not looking at you. You're kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on? Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear okay? I know. It's definitely stressful being a mom. I totally understand that.
Every little thing. But this is good insight for other moms, because we all need to know that it is okay for them to look around.
Yeah, and then, so they're tracking you as a spirit, and you can be like, oh, what color is mom today?
That's so cool.
Or what are you looking at? I wish I could see with you. Or oftentimes with those toddlers, what they taught me was to get really curious about the little friends that they would be talking to. And I'd be like, who are you talking to? And they'd tell me all about who, their little fairy friends or their little angel friends.
That's so cool.
Of course, then as adults, we say, oh, that's just your imaginary friend. That's not real. You don't see that. And they're like, I don't?
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so true. I remember I was about, I think in maybe second grade, maybe first, maybe kindergarten. No, it had to be first, at least. I told my brother I could see colors around people.
Yeah, like
and
clouds.
Absolutely. And I was and I told him, I was like, what is that? And he's like, you're freaking me out. He's just a little bit older, so he's like, you don't see anything. And I'm like, no, but I do. So after he told me that, I didn't tell anybody else, because I was, and it probably, I mean, it's back a little bit, but nothing compared to what it was like then, when I was so excited to tell somebody, my big brother, that I saw this amazing light behind people or around people.
Yeah.
It was so cool. So yeah.
So you have direct experience with that.
I do. It is interesting that people just kind of shut it. But he didn't know either. He was just a kid, not knowing, okay, my little sister's crazy.
Well, I mean, I think here in this culture, we tend to medicate and say, teach them how to meditate, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we tend to invalidate those little kids, so they turn off their clairvoyance, their ability to see. And then so those are the two main spiritual natures. There's also that of the transmedium, that's your ability to leave and enter your body, so your ability to be born, your ability to die, your ability to sleep at night, so when the body goes to sleep, the spirit can leave and go dream and do the things that we do on what I call the astral plane. And then there's also the spiritual nature of the teacher, and so your ability to teach other people. And so those are the main spiritual abilities that we're all born with, and I really take the two that I find are the most useful as a new student, healing and clairvoyance, and we really train that up in our students. And so they do develop their clairvoyance and their healing abilities, but one of the other things that they develop is a whole bunch of other skills. An empath learns how to manage their ability to feel other people's emotions, or a really intellectual person learns how to turn that down so they can just have some quiet.
Right.
Or we have some students who come in and they find that they're really good at communication, and they're able to use their telepathy and their verbal words to communicate really well, and they go into some field with that. Or sometimes we have students who kind of have specialties with their psychic abilities. So we have some students who are really good at communicating with animals, so they become animal
that's so cool.
Yeah. Or some that are really good with finances, and so they end up, working the stock market, right? Or we have some students that come in and are really good at seeing entities, right? That's my thing.
Yeah.
I'm really good at seeing entities, and so, when you can talk to people on the other side, or be able to talk to somebody and kind of translate what their spirit is wanting their body to hear. That's often what I do in most of my private sessions.
That right there is mind-blowing and life-changing for somebody to really get a reading from a profound psychic like yourself that has had these abilities since you were younger, to actually be able to have that clarity and have that calm come over you, because you're open to it, for one. For two, you want to hear what the spirit has to say. We just don't know how to connect. And the fact that you have this gift for these people, for people like us, oh my gosh, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to have that.
It's a lot of fun. I definitely enjoy doing readings, although I'm doing a lot less these days.
Teaching more.
Teaching, mostly managing.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Place of your own, you end up kind of doing some of those other boss-like things.
Yes.
And so that's been a good learning curve for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as your actual personal journey, if you don't mind us switching a little bit from the school, how has it helped you in life? Do you think, outside of the Psychic Institute, but maybe in your personal life or with your children, or things like that, or even your family outside of when you were younger, but today, for example?
There are so many ways in which this has changed me, but the one that is the most notable is I am a Capricorn, and I don't know if you know this, but generally Capricorns are viewed as curmudgeonly, kind of, we get old before our day, and I was just a grumpy kind of kid, and I just grew up very, very serious, very heavy, I furrowed my brow a lot, and I was just so serious. And the biggest thing that this work taught me, and mostly from those little kids, those toddlers that I worked with, they taught me about amusement and how,
good.
I taught them all these technical tools and visualizations, and I thought I was so awesome, and they just taught me the best tool you can ever have, which is your ability to be amused, to be light, to not take things so seriously.
Right.
And through that, I developed, my ability to be more light and not take things so seriously, and to be able to look at a situation and kind of not always laugh on the outside. Sometimes that can be inappropriate, but laugh on the inside and try to see the bigger picture. I guess I'm going through this again. This is happening again, and being a psychic, I can look back and go, oh, look at all those other lifetimes I did this too. So here we go. Maybe on lifetime number 12, I'm actually going to figure it out, right? So I think the biggest thing is learning about not being so serious.
I love that.
Quick little story. I used to get really bad migraines. And just horrific migraines. And I was at the toddler preschool, and a migraine had started on a Sunday.
Oh, you poor thing.
I couldn't get a sub, and so I still went in.
Oh my gosh.
And I locked the door to the school, and I put everyone in the play area, the outdoor play area, and I said, Miss Miwa's not feeling well. We're gonna do, recess time all day.
Yay!
And I'm sitting on one of the little toddler benches.
Oh, you poor thing.
Disappeared. I'm really seriously trying to get this migraine out of my head. I'm healing. I'm working so hard, being so serious. And this little girl, Ella, comes up and she's like, underdog? And, they had very limited speech. And I said, oh, Ella, can't you see right here? Miss Miwa hurt me so bad.
Aww.
And so, no, I'm going to stay right here and try to make it go away. And so she kind of shrugged and went away and tried to swing herself on the swing. And then she came back, underdog. And I said, no, can't you see? And I sent her away about 3 or 4 times. And when she came back the last time, she goes, Mommy head? And she goes, whoa. And she pulled my mother's energy out of my head. And within seconds, my migraine was just gone.
Are you serious?
I could see again. I was actually...
I could only imagine. I just had a migraine, and I don't usually ever, and I just had one. It was the worst thing ever, and I feel so bad for people who, with kids, and all those kids running around. What do you do?
Right? Yes.
Wow.
And the nausea went away, and I was like,
That's amazing.
she just wanted to play. Just want to play.
Oh.
And then she's like, underdog? I was like, yeah.
Absolutely, darling.
And so just that level of lightness. I
That's
just want to play.
amazing.
You don't have to work so hard.
Yeah, it's not that serious.
I was like, oh, it's just that easy. And of course, like for the next year, I'm like,
Yeah,
that didn't work.
Where are you, child? Where are you?
How do I do that? Yeah, so the inner child piece is
I love
huge,
that. That's so cool. Very
keeping
cool.
things very fresh and in present time. They taught me that. I really did learn a lot from
It sounds like you learned a ton.
preschool.
So you talked about past lives, if you don't mind me touching on that. It's quite interesting to most people. Are you able to connect to your past lives? And if so, how does that work? And how is it working for you now?
So one of the ways that I like to connect with my past lives, especially when I'm looking at it for myself, when I look at it for other people, I will just look. What past life are you showing me? And oftentimes as a soul, you'll be like, this one. A whole scene will play out, and I'll just describe the scene and do the best I can to narrate and interpret that lifetime and what you were learning and what you were getting out of it. For myself, I like to try to keep things as neutral as possible, so I don't want to kind of maybe taint it with my own expectations or my own mental state or maybe whatever I'm going through in the moment. I don't want that to obscure what past life I want to look at. And so I like to use my Akashic record keeper.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so an Akashic record keeper is an entity that manages all the experiences you've ever had in any lifetime you've ever had. And so there was a movie with that comedian. Oh my goodness.
Robert Williams?
No, we'll spend too much time.
Gosh.
But at one point there's this movie and he's talking to God, which is Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Almighty?
Yes, it's Almighty. And he opens up and they say, here's your files.
Yes, so many.
And so whoever created that definitely knew something about the Akashic records, because that's kind of what it's like. And so your Akashic record keeper will manage all your files, if you will, and all of your experiences and kind of archive it all. And so I will, when I want to find out about a past life, I'll ask my record keeper, and my record keeper will come and show me the past life.
That is so amazing. I didn't even know about a keeper. I mean, I've heard about the Akashic records, but not an actual keeper.
Yes.
That makes sense. It's I mean, those are super important, files that we could re-download possibly, or whatever the case may be. I mean, those are super important.
Yes.
To have a keeper makes sense.
Yes, and that is the design. So the design is that everyone has an Akashic record keeper, and everybody has Akashic records, which are stored on the astral plane, on the ninth level.
The ninth level. So do you know what possibly, or do you have an idea of what lifetime you're in? 30, 40, 12th, 84th?
I mean, I could definitely, what's funny is you asked me about past lives, and I was just thinking, I really haven't looked at a past life in probably like 10 years. I haven't really needed to.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, new students come in, well, let me rewind. What I observe with most people is that they are operating about 80% off of their previous lifetime, and then some lifetimes from previous to that.
Interesting.
So very few people are actually operating in present time with all of their energy in their body and experiencing the moment like just in its pure form right now. They're bringing all their garbage or all of their history, all of their filters, and those all sit right here, and they think they're talking to someone. Right? I mean, this is how most arguments happen, right? I have all my stuff here, my filters and issues, and you have all yours, and then our issues, my issues fight your issues, and then, you know, we don't get along, or we're not communicating well, or something like that happens, and that's simply because of all of this past life stuff that nobody has been trained or schooled on how to clear and how to bring their energy in the present time. So most people are, you know, walking around about 80% in their last lifetime or previous, and you know, they wonder why they're having a difficult time in life. They're wondering why they're struggling, or why they keep spinning their wheels with the same problem, or you know, the same work problem, or the same relationship problem over and over again, maybe different job, different person.
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. I think almost all of my girlfriends, all of my friends, all my guy friends, they're always talking about the same problem that they had at the previous job, or with the previous boyfriend, or the previous husband, or it's so true.
Yes.
That's such a good way to look at it.
And the way I see it is that, oh, those are all those past lives that they haven't cleared up that's still tripping them up.
Yeah.
Right? And so I actually haven't had a need to look at that in a while, because I, you know, feel like I've done a pretty good job.
I mean, you're in a good spot, good space. Yeah, absolutely.
I always tell my students, I still have energy to clear.
Not perfect.
Don't put me on a pedestal. It'll hurt you more when I fall off.
Yeah. That's cute. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what next for you? What do you want to do next? Do you want to open another location, or like what exactly do you want to do next?
You know, my big goal, and I set up this vision in my early 20s when I wanted to start the preschool, and then realized, oh, I need to bring the adults along. So I actually do have a vision of creating a psychic community where we have a psychic school in the evening for adults, and then we use that space as a preschool, kindergarten space for little ones during the day. Maybe midday we have an after-school teenage program.
I love it.
Where just teenagers are, depending on what they're into, they're either really into the spiritual stuff or they're not, but it can just be a place where they can hang out and just be themselves.
Yeah, and have a good energy and light and just a good feeling all around.
Yeah, exactly. Or just have somebody say hi to them on a spiritual spirit level versus, oh my God, you're dressed like a punk. What are you gonna do? You know, or you don't look okay. You know, right? And they're just looking at the body level. And also my ultimate dream is then to also have a birthing center, and then also to have a hospice. So we can kind of catch the spirit as they're coming into the body and foster that so that they don't have to redevelop their clairvoyance like most of us have to do.
Exactly.
And then they have that support through the whole life all the way till we send them on their way.
I love this idea. I would be your first, just so you know. So would my son and my next baby. How exciting. I love this goal.
I actually was a psychic doula for many years.
You were?
And so I went to over 60 births, and just worked with the spirit of the child and the spirit of the mother, and really helped bring those into harmony and say hello to that little baby on the soul level, and be the one who's like, oh yeah, okay, thanks for letting me know I'm out of my body today. You don't need to look at me in the face. You know, I would be that one that wouldn't do that. And then before the school got really big, I also worked in hospice for a long time. So
that's so nice. That's so kind of you. And oh my gosh, I can only imagine how many people you helped on their way out.
You know, death is amazingly beautiful, and it's the same energy, surprisingly enough, as birth.
Really?
It's the same energy. You're just going in a different direction.
I love this. As far as the doula, I didn't even know there were psychic doulas.
I kind of created that
come on. I think you have a new term. We need to put this in the dictionary. This is phenomenal.
I know, I've been trying to encourage some of the students who are interested in babies to go get their regular doula training, which is what I did, and then just apply your psychic abilities to that.
This is phenomenal. You are such a blessing to all. Like, this is just an amazing moment to hear all these amazing spiritual things as a mom now, as a new mom, to understand what else is out there. Because again, I'm just coming from the medical side. Here's your here's where you're going to have the baby in the room, and there's going to be some attending nurses and a doctor, but there's so much more, like you said, the birth in and to talk to the spirit one-to-one. I like how you say that. I never think about that. Who ever thinks about those things? But to get on that level is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's
why we're called human beings.
Yeah.
And you could kind of play a game with your child and be like, what color is mom today?
I'm going to so play this game. I'm so going to play this game. I would love to be a part of this school, bring my son, just to develop his abilities from day one. I love that your family truly gave you the stage, the platform to develop yours when you were younger and asking you these questions. That's exciting, because again, like you said, in America, not many people do that.
As a matter of fact, when I'd come home, we just didn't talk about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So no book, no.
I'm really not into writing.
Really? I mean, you have so much to talk about.
I do, and that's why I tend to do interviews.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm more of a talker, presenter, teacher. But writing, it is just not in my flow.
Yeah.
Luckily I hired staff who they're really great at writing, but that is just not my thing. And the thing about a book is it would take so long to write that by the time it got published, it would be like, so past news for me that it just wouldn't even be that
exciting. And that's not your thing.
It's great that we have technology now where you can kind of put things out a lot quicker and produce them, and it's more like, oh, here's my present time finding, or here's what's kind of new right now.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Get it out there quicker.
2 questions left. Do you feel this time frame that we're all here, we're birthed, we're maybe possibly starting to awaken? Do you feel this is a transition stage, an awakening stage for us as a human race? With the technology that we have in place, because it's so instant, I get to look on YouTube and see what Miwa said and understand a little bit more about myself. I mean, what are your thoughts about this moment?
I do see that there's a lot of awakening happening, and that because of technology and easy access to technology, more people are becoming more open to this. For example, when I first started teaching this work 20 years ago and talked about a chakra, I actually had to explain what a chakra was and where they're located and what they do. And now I can just say, oh, and chakra, and all of my students who are coming in now, they all know what that means.
Right.
So there's definitely been an evolution, a lot of change. And with that, this planet is all about the dichotomy. It's all about yin, yang, night, day, white, black, winter, summer. And so I do see that as more and more people are starting to become more aware, more and more people are kind of becoming less aware too. And there's kind of this balancing act that's happening. And that is why we're seeing a lot of the split in our nation and other countries, and where there's these differing views between the right and the left.
Very interesting, very cool. Thank you.
There's just always going to be on this planet a level where we need balance. We crave balance. Even in relationships, we crave balance, right?
Yeah.
So if you're with a slob, you're gonna try to balance it out like being super, super clean, and what we don't realize is that instead of cleaning more and more and more, which has the other person maybe become more and more and more of a slob, right? You have to actually step in, to take some steps in and say, oh, maybe I'll leave those dishes. And then they might go, oh, I guess maybe I'll do some of those dishes, right? And so
it is a balancing act.
It is. We love balance. Humans love balance. Mother Earth loves balance. It's all about this balance. And so when we talk about polarization, or the news talks about that, it's, that's why it's happening, is because everybody's going so far away.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Thank you. That was good insight. I appreciate it. So as far as social media, where can we find you? Like for somebody who wants to go to the school, who wants to get a reading, can you give us some insight on where we can find you?
Yes, so our website is www.boulderpsychicinstitute.org, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those other social media sites
that so many
your staff takes care of.
You don't have to deal with it. That's awesome.
I've become that older person.
I love it.
Where's that button?
Can you just do it?
But yeah, you can find us, and we do offer very affordable psychic readings, and we do free healings here in Boulder, and we do extremely affordable healings over the phone.
Wow.
Everything we do here in Boulder, we also do over the phone too.
Oh, I love that. That's so smart. And so, if you wouldn't mind, give us some insight about the over the phone. I've never done it. How they just feel the energy, right? It's just, and it's instant. How could it not be? Just like speaking over the phone.
Yeah, so spirit transcends time and space. So I've been doing readings for people all over the world for years.
Wow.
And I can just call them right in and spiritually take a look at them and talk to them as though they're right here. And so the same thing with phone classes. I just kind of take everyone and just put them all into what I call a classroom bubble.
So cool.
And, then they're in the vibe of this school, just like when you walk in the building, and they're able to oftentimes see energy better, or be able to heal themselves a lot faster when they're in the vibe of it.
Oh, I love that.
A lot of students say, how come it's easier to do this work when I'm either at the school or on the phone in class?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The energy.
I love that. That's so smart. Thank you for that insight. I had no clue about that one. I always wondered, so thank you. So a little bonus, if you don't mind, what would be 3 things on your vision board for 2020?
On my vision board, so what I would like to accomplish this year. On a personal note, I would like to try to get pregnant again.
Yay, how exciting.
Make another one.
Yeah.
And on a professional note, I am looking at starting some more transmedium classes. So this is our postgraduate work. So kind of like the end curriculum. Or at least the end that I've created so far. It's a pretty infinite rabbit hole, so I tend to keep creating more and more curriculum over the years. But I would like to start a phone transmedium program. Ooh. And then I'm also looking at starting a hands-on healing program here in Boulder. And one of my other things I've been wanting to do is do some more classes on finances and money.
I think that we don't get taught that when we're young. We have no clue, it's so important. Thank you for even saying that.
There's the practical side of money and accounting and cash flow and that sort of thing, but also the energy side. And I'd like to, teach a class where we're incorporating both.
Wow.
Both sides of the brain.
That's phenomenal.
Just see so many younger students who come through the school and they really just don't really know how to manage their money, and they're really hand-to-mouth.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate everything you're doing and what you've done, and how many people you've helped, probably countless, throughout your entire span of being a spirit. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this interview. This was quite the pleasure.